Continuing on the topic of impact and sustainability, I mean, this is clearly a hot topic at the moment, and there's a more and more pressure on companies and entrepreneurs to be more sustainable. What are the simple things they can do to start the process at least?
Yeah. So we look at this as there are really two tracks. Right? There's two separate pathways. They can be walked separately or concurrently. But for a minority of companies, the most important thing that they can do is decarbonize. I think right now that is still the most critical challenge that we're facing. Biodiversity loss as well, but climate change as maybe the more short-term threat. And so for companies that are, I would say, in the business of making, moving, or mining things, this kind of decarbonization and optimizing processes is really the most important thing for them to do. And that begins by just taking actions, right? Like trying to support that kind of R&D that enables your process to be decarbonized, buying green electricity, like all of these kind of simple things, reduce waste. I mean, not simple. The advice is simple. Actually doing it is hard. Yeah. But for many companies, that's really, I think, the step one. Now, I would say the majority of companies, maybe 65-70% of companies that are not really in the business of what we call like making, moving, or mining, which means these are companies that don't have a massive environmental footprint. Right? They don't have a very adverse impact on the world, and that includes most digital organizations, media, most consulting, most service organizations. So they have an impact on the world, but it's actually, in terms of like, if you just look at their carbon emissions, it's actually quite small. Right? And if they're only focusing on this reduce, reuse, recycle, the kind of that do less bad, then I think they're missing an opportunity, and they're also kind of shirking their responsibility. And I think especially those companies should focus on the creation of positive impact, and then figuring out how do we monetize this creation of positive impact so that it actually makes sense from a for-profit perspective. And the key challenge there for the vast majority of, I would say, like investments in nature is that they're not profitable. And the returns are very unclear. And if there's a returns at all, right? Yeah. There's no market right now for, I don't know, coral restoration. There is no market for it. There's no real market for biodiversity protection. There are carbon credits that you can potentially gain speculative gains from, and so. But so if you just look at the return on the underlying asset as the way to earn your money, nature is not going to be invested in. And so the return needs to come from the improvement in engagement, right? So what we call engagement ROI. And that's really a new way of thinking. And every company can do this, right? We've seen examples in so many different sectors where integrating, let's say, the planting of a tree or the restoring of a coral or the removal of a kilo of plastic from the ocean, or providing access to education, right? But integrating some kind of tokenized benefit into your interactions with your customers or your employees changes your relationship with those stakeholders. And it is that improved engagement that is extremely valuable. And that is applicable to any company.
So for example, I could if I understand you well, I could say to my clients when they buy my coaching services that part of the revenue will be used to replant trees. Is that what you're saying?
Something like this, right? So for a service provider, you could say like, okay, this is going to be part of what we do, or I'm going to give you an impact voucher, and you're going to be able to choose something that you care about. I will finance it, and you will have access to the digital assets that come from that impact creation process. Like you're planting trees, you'll have access to videos and photos, and that basically gives you the digital assets that enable you to re-engage that customer 6 months from now. Say, hey, remember we did this work together? Yeah. Here are some pictures from the trees because you ended up choosing this project, or you ended up supporting this school, and like here are some pictures. And so it gives you that ability to re-engage with purpose. Say like, hey, I'm just sharing this. You've actually enabled this. So in a B2B relationship, that often makes sense. We're also seeing this now, for instance, with another client. So they are trying to get their customers to use a new digital tool that they developed. And they've been trying for a year and have not been very successful. And so now they've come to us and say, like, let's partner, and we're going to basically incentivize customers to do exactly what we want them to do. We're going to give them impact vouchers. And we'll see. And we're going to roll this out in the next couple of weeks. We'll see how that's going to work. And if it indeed leads to an increase from almost zero. But if it gets to like 5 or 10% of their customers actually doing this, they're trying out this new tool, that's a big success for them. That's really what they're hoping to achieve. And then the cost in terms of impact is actually quite small, because what they want to have is going to strengthen their customer relationship, and we are a partner to enable them to do this, while at the same time they can learn and they can figure out, okay, this partner, they choose, or this client, they picked this project, this client picks a different project. So you learn what they care about, which might be very useful for future engagements as well. So that's really, this is how we see many of these, this kind of engagement ROI kind of manifests in those ways. Plus, you can also see, like, you get an impact voucher, people redeem it, they post it on social media, it creates additional attention. So there is all of these positive business outcomes that can come from using impact to kind of change your relationships. And we see a lot of potential for growth there. But it is a new thing, and many companies are not familiar with it. And as a consequence, the buyer persona is still hard to figure out, like, who is the right buyer?